busy. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, a show we call The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latzia. So coming up, does Gronk retire as the greatest tight end ever? We're breaking down the best bets ahead of tonight's NBA draft, movement all over the place, and potential October preview. We have one when the Astros visit the Yankees, so how to approach that on the DK Sportsbook. But let's get going here with what went down last night in a thrilling Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. We got the riveting RotoWire duo of AJ Scholes and Paul Bruno here on your screen. Gentlemen, the Avs are on the verge here of achieving their immense potential after a storybook, albeit controversial, ending in overtime last night. Just the second time here the Lightning have lost a home game this postseason. Paul, how was Colorado able to get it done?
Well, let's talk about how I broke this down yesterday, Emerson, when we get there. Tampa got the vital first goal, check. Avs got drawn into a chasing the game in a close forechecking game, check. We saw them with only 4 shots on goal in the first period, check, before they started to roll offensively, and that's when things turned. Tampa got 39 shots on goal. I said if they got over 30, they'd roll, but Colorado started to play their game after the first 20, and I think slowly but surely they took control. And none of the factors that I identified were in favor of Colorado, yet they overcame them. So it's time for me to give them full credit for overcoming all of this and coming up with a gutsy effort to win on the road. Like you said, only the second time the Bolts have lost on home ice in the playoffs. So full credit to the Avalanche for the effort. I
mean, AJ, if it was an illegal line change, it wasn't the first one a team has gotten away with in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Everyone remembers Tampa Bay maybe getting away with one last year.
Yeah, I mean, look, do I think it was an illegal line change? Yeah, probably. So I'll agree with John Cooper on that one. But as you pointed out, is it the first one? Is this a call that probably goes unrecognized a lot of times? Yeah, of course.
Dude, AJ, you nailed it. It's like holding in football, man. They could call that like 40, 50 times like a game if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Plus, you got to consider the fact, it's overtime. The whistles go away generally. So I do think it was an illegal line change. But again, if you don't call it, I'm not going to lose my mind over it.
You know what? Can I chime in?
What's up? Yeah, go ahead.
Both teams had 7 players on the ice when that goal was scored. Nobody's talking about that. So it was missed on both sides. And look, that's hockey. Okay.
Yeah.
So
this is just the biggest stage, Paul. That's why people are freaking out about it.
But both teams had 7 players on the ice. So let's get off that. Excuses are for losers. How about that?
Okay, I love that. Let's go ahead then. Let's get an early look at Game 5 here, guys. The game total, it sits at 6 right now. It went under 5.5 last night. We all know that. But it has hit over 6 in the other 3 games. So which way are you leaning then, Paul?
You know what? At altitude, I think you got to also factor that in, that the players are not going to be at their 100% best and mistakes will be made. That's going to contribute to more offense. I expect also more of what we saw from the Avs in the last 55 minutes of that game last night after the first 15. I look for the clubs to go over the number for the 4th time in 5 games because Tampa's desperate. They're going to throw everything they've got at the Colorado net. But I think the Avs are going to do what they do at home ice, and that's roll in waves. And it's going to be fun to watch.
I mean, AJ, do you agree with that? You think the Lightning are just going to be firing at will?
Yeah, I mean, they did in that game last night. So, yeah, I expect we'll get more goals. Vasilevsky was pretty good in this one. Whether he can be that good in Colorado, we haven't seen that yet from him. He's been a lot more leaky in terms of goals on away ice. So I would expect this total to hit the over for sure.
And then, guys, just 1 goal on the series for Stamkos, right? Which is 1 more than Kucherov. Which point or goal prop do you like for either one of them in Game 5 now that their backs are against the wall, AJ?
Well, I think I would stick with Andre Palat here and ride the hot hand. Look, I said before the series that if the Lightning were going to win, it was going to be in part because of Kucherov, and he's been a non-factor for the most part here, especially in terms of goal scoring. I mean, if you look at the point props right now on the DK Sportsbook, Palat has the longest shot of these guys to at least get a point. And so I would imagine when those goal scoring props come out, later today or tomorrow, it'll be the same there. You'll probably get the most value out of Palat, and I think it's honestly the best bet out of those three guys.
Okay, Paul, what do you think, man? Is Palat right in the hot hand kind of the way to go, or do you expect either maybe Stamkos or Kucherov here to step up?
I'd rather go with the big boys. Stamkos has been blank in 3 of the 4 games. That can't last if Tampa's got any kind of a chance. And Kucherov, people are going to say, does he look injured or whatever? But I don't think so. I think he's made some great passes. He hit a crossbar with a wicked wrister last night too. So he, other than the one game, has been held to 1 assist in 3 of these games in total. And they both got to get off the schneid, and they got maybe one more chance to do it. So I'm going to put my money on that.
Yeah, well, Paul, everyone was like, McKinnon hasn't scored a goal through the first 3 games. And then, he kind of scores his first one like last night, thanks to a fortunate deflection. I mean, the first 2 goals for the Abs were really fortunate deflections. Yeah. So he sits at plus 500 in the Conn Smythe odds. Makar, minus 600 to win this thing. I mean, he's third in playoff points. Is this thing locked up? Does he have it locked up, Paul?
Oh, I think so. I mean, he's a heavy favorite. Yeah, I mean, you might even see Connor McDavid get a vote or 2 because he's still atop the playoff scoring leaders. So a weird situation there. But Makar, of the guys that are playing in the series, is clearly the heavy favorite, and he should be. McKinnon has 12 playoff goals. Maybe if he gets a hat trick and winds up with 15 to lead the pack in playoff scoring, that makes it close. But I think it's Makar's to lose. I really do.
Okay, so AJ, what kind of game does McKinnon need to have in game 5 for you to take him at plus 500?
I think exactly what Paul just said. It has to be 1 in game 5, and it has to be a hat trick. So I think they would have to win the series on like a McKinnon hat trick for him to get in there, because then the voters are going to just have seen this, and, he's the face of the team and all that jazz. But some of that might not even be enough, honestly. When if Makar gets an assist or 2 on one of those hat trick goals, this guy's been so consistent. He's got points in 13 of 18 games, 7 multi-point efforts, 12 power play points in the playoffs here. So I think it is Makar's to lose, unless the Lightning were to storm back and win this in 7 games, then maybe somebody from their side would win it. But at this point, unless McKinnon gets a hat trick in game 5, I think Makar is pretty much a lock.
Okay, well, AJ, we're not going to have you here on the program tomorrow. You take Fridays off, 3-day weekends during the summer. Let me get your Hey, I don't blame you, dude. Let me get your game 5 prediction here. How do you see it playing out? Is this thing over? You think the Lightning can strike again?
I think it's over. I've been on the Lightning for most of the postseason, but I think Colorado's too good at home. They've got everything rolling for them. Vasilevsky has really struggled on the road this postseason, so I do expect Colorado to come out and get the win in game 5.
Paul, I need you to save your prediction for tomorrow. Maybe we'll have Anna join us. Could have Pete join us as well. You and Anna were kind of riding the hot hand last night. Some really good DFS advice from you guys. So hang tight. AJ, enjoy your weekend, dude. Everyone watching, stick around. We got baseball coming up after this. Some picks for today's slate. Plus Jared Carabas will be joining the show right after this break. All right, we're back here on an at-home edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. Let's bring in our baseball panel now. So DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, Gary and Thorne, Eric Halterman in the house as well of RotoWire. Gentlemen, this segment, MLB long toss. So best DK Sportsbook plays on today's slate. And Steven, there are a lot of games on the early side as well. I think 7 to be exact. So what's your favorite bet in this window? Like we're talking between, the 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock games here.
Yeah. So, my hero of all heroes is taking the mound today against the Oakland Athletics. That's Robbie Ray, the man who, funded 5 vacations for me after the 2021 season was over. I'm not taking them on the money line because they do have a tough matchup against Frankie Montas. I am taking Ray, though, to go over 6.5 strikeouts against the Oakland Athletics. If you look at the numbers for the Oakland Athletics against lefties, you look at them and go, is this like a 1-week sample, a 2-week sample? This is way too low to be a season-long sample. Oh, no. It is a season-long sample for the numbers for the Oakland Athletics against lefties. 285 WOBA, 89 WRC plus, and a 23% K rate against lefties, which rounds out the top 10 in the league. Ray has already faced this team, had 10 strikeouts in that game. So you look at the 6.5 total, minus 130, you go, that feels about maybe, 4 strikeouts too low. So over 6.5 strikeouts for Robbie Ray against this absolutely putrid Oakland Athletics team.
Yeah, Steve, how blessed you are to have your hero playing on the afternoon slate. Gary, is your hero happen to be suiting up in the early games?
I think Ray only paid a month of my rent, so I can't say he's my absolute hero. But look, I appreciate a lot of what the guy did. I'm going to go to the exact opposite end of the spectrum here in terms of strikeout props. Devin Smeltzer. Somebody who, not exactly a household name by any stretch of the imagination. He's been pitching okay for the Minnesota Twins since getting that call up, but he is not a strikeout pitcher. Comes into this game averaging fewer than 4.5 strikeouts per 9. His 12.4% strikeout rate would be the lowest qualified mark in baseball had he the innings pitched so far this season. And he's going up against the Guardians team that has the lowest strikeout rate in all of baseball and has also struck out in just 17.1% of their plate appearances in the month of June. I was fully expecting Smeltzer's strikeout prop to be 2.5, and I was prepared to take the under on 2.5. So you can imagine how happy I was to see it's 3.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. He's not going to get close to this. This is the lock of the century. He is not striking out 4 Guardians today. I will take under 3.5 strikeouts for Smeltzer.
All right, Eric, hook me up with your favorite bet on the early slate.
Yeah, I'll go back to that Mariners Athletics game. I'll just take the Mariners at minus 130 here. I think Robbie Ray it's been a weird season for him. At the start of the year, he wasn't giving up runs, but he didn't look right by the underlying numbers. His velocity was down. He wasn't striking guys out. In his last 8 starts, he is giving up runs, but the strikeouts are back. He's up over 30% strikeout rate over that 8-start stretch. I'm willing to treat this as basically Robbie Ray fully formed. Not quite the elite version we saw last year, but pretty close. Frankie Montas, on the other hand, he's having quite a good year, but 10 runs allowed in 11 innings over his last 2 starts. It's a good time to go against him. I think minus 130 isn't quite enough of an edge here for the Mariners. I actually think they should be maybe minus 150 or something in this one.
All right, well, dudes, this leaves just like 3 games on the night slate, but there's some good teams in action, some good storylines here. We're looking at the main attraction, Yankees and Astros facing off. So it's Valdez and Taillon. If the 2 division leaders here, gentlemen, continue anything close to their current pace, an October rematch of 2017 and 2019 could be at hand here. What's a bet you're looking at in this game, Garion?
So it may not be the smartest thing in the world to go to the opposing pitcher, like a positive prop about him going up against the New York Yankees, who are easily the best offense in baseball. But Framber Valdez, his outs prop tonight is 17.5, which basically means you're betting him if you're taking the over to throw 6 innings. Valdez has thrown 6 innings in 10 consecutive starts. Maybe he's not quite as good as his surface numbers have suggested this season, but he's a ground ball savant. And he's someone who's very economical with his pitches, averages just 3.7 pitches per plate appearance. That is among the league leaders. The Yankees have also been better against right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers so far this season. Not much. They've been great against everybody, but they have been better against righties. I don't know. I'll trust Framber Valdez here to just work the volume. Even if he gives up 4 earned runs, I think the Astros are going to leave him in there if he's under 100 pitches. So I will take over 17.5 outs recorded by Valdez.
All right, Steve, what direction are you going in this one?
Yeah, kind of like going off what Gary was saying, like he wants to trust Valdez. I want to trust both pitchers in this one. So I think under 4 runs through the first 5 innings is something that you can take advantage of. It's at plus 105. So you're getting some plus money here. Obviously, when you're taking these two type of offenses, taking an under in any type of scenario probably isn't the best feeling bet that you can take. That being said, we have 2 very good pitchers taking the mound tonight, and that's kind of where I want to take advantage of there. Will this bet be a sweaty one? Absolutely. This is not, you're not going to sit there and coast and go, this is the easiest bet I've taken all day, because it's not going to be. But I think that with this game total set at 8, we're not expecting an absolute barn burner with these 2 guys on the mound. Who knows when it comes to the bullpens, what we're going to get out of that. But I think trusting both of these guys through the first 5 innings, I think they can able to silence both bats in this one enough that we can go under 4 runs. And you're getting the plus money at this too. That's what really kind of caught my eye. Plus 105. So give me that under 4 runs through the first 5.
All right, Eric, what are you taking advantage of tonight in this game?
Yeah, I'm also looking at some plus money, and it seems to be with the Astros at plus 105. I think this one's a true coin flip, but obviously plus 105 isn't far from that. But I'll take the slight edge if I can get it. These lineups about as close as you can get. Yankees may lead the league by WRC plus, but the Astros are 3rd. I don't think there's much of a gap there. And then it's actually kind of wild how similar these pitches are. Their strikeout rates are both slightly subpar. They differ by 0.2 percentage points. Valdez, for his part, league average walk rate, but the best ground ball rate among qualified starters. Tyone is actually the inverse, league average ground ball rate, but the best walk rate among qualified starters. So there's 2 guys who don't get a ton of whiffs, but are very good in one other key area. They're so similar to me, I can't split them. If it was plus 105 for the Yankees, I'd be going in that direction. But if I can get a little bit on the Astros, I think that's enough to lean their way.
All right, out in San Diego here, gentlemen, Joe Musgrove returns from the COVID list to face the Phillies. Just 2 earned runs and 23 strikeouts in his 3 starts this month. That's pretty damn good. It's the same month also that Philly has a 15-4 record. What's the move here on the DK Sportsbook, Garion?
Yeah, this one's tough. I think you'd really like to know whether or not Manny Machado is going to play in this game, especially with the numbers he's been able to put up against left-handed pitching so far this season. Because as a team, the Padres are top 10 in WRC plus against Southpaws, but a lot of that is Manny Machado, understandably. So that's a big question mark. I'll still just take the Padres money line. They're playing really good baseball right now, where Ranger Suarez has not exactly been the amazing story in 2022 that he was in 2021. His last 6 starts in particular, his ERA is up over 5. And I think the really concerning part is he's walking 5 opposing batters per 9. His walk rate is up over 12%. I just don't know if you can give that many free passes and that many opportunities to a team like the Padres and get out unscathed. So I'll take Padres on the money line here.
See, the Padres 11-1 and Musgrove starts this season with 9 wins of 2 or more runs.
Yeah, I'll take this a step further, and I'll take the Padres on the run line, -1.5 at plus 145. If we talk about this Phillies team and how good they've been, because you stated there was 15-4 this month, that they've been phenomenal. That being said, probably the biggest weakness in the rotation is the man who's taking them on tonight in Ranger Suarez. Now, Garion brought up a good point about Manny Machado. That's really where you want to think about this. But even without Machado, and we just saw it yesterday against the lefty Madison Bumgarner, they were just fine going up against a weak lefty, and that's what they're getting today against Ranger Suarez. The problem with Suarez, he puts a lot of men on base. He's averaging 4 walks per 9 innings at this point, and once men get on base, that's really where he kind of falls apart at this point. His FIP with men on base is almost at 4.5. This is the point where Suarez really starts to fall off, and now he's facing one of the more patient teams in the league to take walks in the Padres. They are one of the top teams in walk rate, over 11% against lefties. So you love if Machado was in this. This would make me further like this bet more if he is in there. But even without him, I still think the Padres can win this game by 2 runs, especially with Musgrove on the mound. So give me the run line at plus 145, getting a really good number there.
Eric, how do you approach this matchup on the DK Sportsbook?
Well, so there's one factor that hasn't been talked about yet, and it's going to be why I'm going to side with the Phillies at plus 130, and that's because Joe Musgrove just coming off the COVID list. I don't know that this is 100% of Joe Musgrove that we're going to get tonight. obviously even 95% of Joe Musgrove is excellent, given the guy he's been this year. And he didn't have a long absence at all. I think there's only going to be a couple extra days of rest. But it seemed like he did have the illness, even if it wasn't that bad of a case. That, to me, is enough to say this isn't quite the dominant Joe Musgrove we've seen all year, the kind of pitcher who deserves Cy Young consideration. If he's merely quite good, I'll take plus 130 with the Phillies, given how good that lineup is. And given that there's always a chance that Ranger Suarez gets at least a little bit closer to what he showed last year, I would bet that the version we see from him the rest of the year falls somewhere between what we've seen this season and his breakout campaign last year. Plus 130 is enough for me, given, again, the COVID list for Joe Musgrove.
All right, guys. Well, quick on this last one. And since we're calling this segment MLB long toss, I mean, let's get a long shot bet from you. Eric, what value can you provide the people?
Yeah, let's look at some homer props for the White Sox against Dean Kramer. He's got a career 32.1% ground ball rate, this Orioles starter. He's only made 3 starts this year. It is up close to 40% this year, but his strikeout rate's down to 16%. Fortunately, the White Sox are very righty heavy. Still, any of their best power bats, Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu, Luis Robert. I like any of them here against Kramer.
Steven.
Yeah, this is exactly where I was going. I was going with Lubob to hit a home run plus 310. If it doesn't come off old Dean there, the bullpen has been absolutely atrocious. Give me Luis Robert plus 310 to hit a home run.
Gare Bear, hook me up.
I had Andrew Vaughn to hit home run at plus 380. Dean Kremer over 3 home runs per 9 to right-handed batters last season. Low strikeout rate, like Eric mentioned. Yeah, I think you want to be using some Chicago White Sox props tonight.
All right, guys. Great work as always. We got more baseball goodness coming your way right meow. Here's my weekly conversation with Jared Carabas from earlier this week.
We're under a week away from Say It Day.
Ooh.
There's an official countdown now as well. How do you plan on celebrating it?
So we do our streams every Tuesday, and it just so happens to fall on a Tuesday, June 28th. So I don't know, man. I'm going to have to get some special guests. Do you want to come over?
I would actually come over.
Yeah, I would love to have you come by.
I'll swing by. I don't know if I want to stay the whole time.
Yeah, you don't have to stay the whole time, but we can do a whole June 28th, like a Dean Martin variety show where just different
people coming in and out.
Why not? Why not us?
Will you provide snacks like the snack wall here at DK?
My snacks are kind of depleted. Did you see my tweet that Johnny Damon slept over my house over the weekend?
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, after the finals, game 6, he was just like, hey, my flights got canceled. Can I crash on your couch? I was like, sure, Johnny Damon. And
Johnny Damon slept on your couch?
Yeah.
No, I totally missed that over the weekend.
Yeah, so my snacks and beer are not, I need to replenish. So I'll have that all taken care of before you come over.
Is he as high on Nick Pivetta as you are? Because over the weekend, you're like, this is going to be an all-star season for this dude. He actually has been pitching like it in the past 9 outings.
Yeah, so the last 9 outings, I think he's got a 1.71, 4th best ERA in baseball, 4th best whip, 2nd most innings, 2nd most strikeouts. We're talking about a guy that, you can't just be like, oh, if you take out the bad starts, he's had a great year. Even with the bad starts, you're looking at a low 3 ERA for a guy. I mean, when you're in the low 3s, there's a lot of guys that are having great seasons right now, like Cy Young seasons. You don't have to be having a Cy Young season to be voted an All-Star. I mean, a lot of guys, if you just pitched right before the All-Star game, there's things that get switched around. So I think we might actually see him in LA.
What's been going right for him though? What changed? I don't know.
So it's interesting. It's interesting with Pivetta because it's more control. But he's not. It's almost, remember Martin Perez, old friend Martin Perez? Martin Perez, when he was with the Red Sox, was throwing 96, 97. Now he's throwing 93, 94.
But now he's unbelievable.
He's able to control the baseball. So I think with Nick Pivetta, there's a little bit of dip in velocity. He's still walking guys, though. That's why it doesn't make sense. His last outing, I think he walked 4 batters. But that was earlier in the start. As the start goes on, he's able to control the baseball a little bit better. I think it's just, it's that, and it's also a confidence thing. In Philly, he was kind of just I don't know, do I have a job today? I'm not sure. In Boston, they were like, hey, you're our guy. You're in the rotation. And I think that goes a long way with certain guys.
Jeter Downs has a job right now. It's with the Red Sox. He just called up, 23-year-old infielder, one of the top prospects in the game.
Yeah.
You tweeted he's the best Jeter in baseball history, not close.
Yeah.
How'd your mentions look after that one?
I mean, a lot of people agreed with that take. I think it's one of those things where
Even Yankees fans?
Yeah. I think, I mean, like, when you say something that's just so obvious, what are you going to do? Are you going to disagree with that? Like, you look like an idiot.
Okay. I mean, he hasn't been great with the Woo Sox, hitting 180, right? 694 OPS.
Yeah.
Likely a short stint here, maybe, until Kike and Arroyo come back.
Sure, but I mean, like, those are minor league numbers. They don't count. Like, when Derek Jeter went to the Hall of Fame, did they list off his minor league numbers?
They should have.
But they didn't.
No, they did not.
Because they don't count. So it only counts what you do in the big leagues. And, I mean, you can't definitively say that Jeter Downs isn't as good as Derek Jeter. We don't know. You can't say no to that. You can say maybe. Can't say no.
He was part of the blockbuster Mookie Betts trade. I think all players part of that deal have now all been called up. So, like, are you confident saying the Red Sox won that trade now, or what? What are your thoughts on that, by the way? Because it's come back now that Jeter's been called up. People are like, oh yeah, part of that Mookie Betts trade.
Still sad about it.
Okay, you haven't thought a whole lot about it.
I mean, I'm not ready to declare a winner or a loser here.
All right.
But emotionally speaking, am I okay? No.
No, you're not.
I'm not okay.
You haven't been okay since that day.
No, I love Mookie Betts a lot.
Oh God, hey.
It's a tough thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it feels like you lose a piece of you when a franchise player like that just goes to a different market, and he says, well, I want to test free agency, and then he does he test free agent? No, he gets traded to a new team, and then he's like, I love it here.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign an extension immediately. Listen, there are a lot of comparisons that you can draw to that situation. Yeah. I have emotional trauma. I do. I think I have a little bit of emotional trauma from that situation.
Okay.
I felt lied to. I felt betrayed, and
Because you have the best Jeter in baseball history now as part of your team. Yeah. Outside the AL East, here we go, Manny Machado, old AL East friend and rival of the Red Sox. He suffered that gross-looking ankle injury over the weekend. Good news for him and the Padres, though. X-rays come back negative. We couldn't help but think, though, and I know you've mentioned it multiple times on this segment, the takeoff. Was this the curse of Dustin Pedroia?
So here's the thing. I need to word this carefully.
Yes, please do.
I would never wish injury.
Nobody does, dude.
That's not true. That's not true. Take a peek at my mentions anytime Chris Sale comes up. There's a lot of people that are happy that he's not
warriors. Like professionals never wish harm on anybody.
Yeah, sure. Never wish injury on anyone. But
there's the but.
But you see an injury like that to a guy that has hurt people, and it's like, well, I mean, it's not so fun, is it? I mean, you can directly point to that injury that a lot of people feel like was deliberate. That ended Dustin Pedroia's career.
I think Dustin has said that himself.
In the moment, I don't know. I think he tried to take some blame, but I think as he becomes more removed from it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to guys that were on that team. They were like, yeah, he ended Pedroia's career, like point blank. So I'm not saying that I wasn't happy to see it, but is there a part of your psyche that without even really thinking about it is like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been such a bad guy before.
He can't blame anybody in this situation, unless he's going to go yell at the actual base on the ground, right?
Yeah. With him, it's a karma thing. Yeah. As long as structurally nothing's wrong, his career is not I don't want to see. It's not like an eye for an eye situation where I want to see him have a career-ending injury to be like, oh, how do you like that? No, it's more just it's not so fun getting hurt, huh? Oh.
He's a vet, doing his thing, successful at it, but let's take a gander at the rookie radar, because there have been some freshmen here who have just been absolutely crushing it. Pittsburgh's Jack Sawinski. He entered baseball history last weekend. 3 taters, including the walk-off, walk-off victory. Then you have the Encarnacion kid, down in Miami, was it his first career at bat and his first career hit?
Correct.
Or his first career hit, I think it was.
First career hit, first career homer.
Was a grand slam for crying out loud. Who's atop your Rookie of the Year standings right now at this moment?
So I'm still going with Jeremy Pena. I know that a lot of Mariners fans don't love that. I think that the Julio Rodriguez extravaganza that's going on in Seattle. J-Rod is going to be a great big league player. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be outstanding. I love J-Rod. I love to watch him on the West Coast. Once the Red Sox are done playing, throw on the Mariners, get to see J-Rod. But Jeremy Pena, statistically, offensively, he's better. Defensively, he's better. He's played fewer games and still has better. The only thing that J-Rod is beating Pena in right now is stolen bases.
All right.
So, I mean, if you want to talk about fantasy baseball-wise, who's more valuable. But If you had a vote today, I think it would be unanimous. If the season ended today, who's Rookie of the Year? It's Jeremy Pena.
And not to mention, like, Carlos Correa's replacement.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you know, he's hearing that. He's seeing fans say it. I mean, you've got probably the comparisons like left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's not easy.
It's not that it's like a huge media market like it is in Boston or Philly or New York or wherever, but to play for an organization that made 5 consecutive trips to the American League Championship Series, and one of the biggest reasons why they did that was the guy that you just replaced. There's a lot of pressure that comes along with that.
They're already ridiculously heavy favorites too to win that division. Like right now, we're only in June.
They get a big lead.
Yeah.
They get a big lead.
Time for the namesake of this segment. It is the Takeoff, and you give us your hot baseball take of the week. How spicy is yours today?
So I think I kind of got like a little bit. Speaking of bullying, I think I got bullied into dropping a significant chunk of change on this particular take.
Okay. All right, let me hear it.
I got the Cleveland Guardians winning the division.
Why?
A lot of people didn't want to, like, with the Minnesota Twins. They've been in first place all year, but no one wants to talk about the Cleveland Guardians because why? Oh, they didn't spend enough money. Their payroll. Oh, the Cleveland Guardians, they didn't invest in the roster. That doesn't mean that they can't be a good baseball team. They are a good baseball team, and they're only 1 game back of first place right now. So, I mean, it's not like with the Red Sox and the Yankees. You look at the Yankees run differential, it's like plus 1 million, and then the Red Sox are like, I think, seventh best or whatever it is. There's a big discrepancy there. There's not a big discrepancy between the Guardians and the Twins, and the Guardians just so happen to have won 6 straight series.
So do people not want to believe in them?
People don't want to believe in them. They don't want to believe. I mean, this team, this organization is so dysfunctional that I think they still could be a game back of first place, and they still might sell at the deadline. That's the type of ship that they're running over there.
Look at this.
I'm just saying, plus 380 coming into today.
You're opening eyes. You're opening eyes right now.
Yeah.
And helping people.
Join me. Join me in Cleveland.
I have joined you in Cleveland,
Thank
my
you.
friend.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you for joining us for the Takeoff.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. We want to do it again next week?
Absolute
I'll
pleasure.
be
Yeah,
here next week.
we'll do it again on Wednesday next week.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Can't
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye. See ya.
All right. Well, the day has finally arrived. It's the 2022 NBA draft at Barclays Center. Dreams will be realized. Mistakes will be made. There will be unexpected selections, players who fall too far, outrageous outfits, heartfelt moments, all that jazz. DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow, Jeff Pratt, RotoWire's Nick Whalen are here to share some of their best bets. We talked yesterday during our mock draft show, guys, about how you see tonight playing out. There's been a ton of movement on the DK Sportsbook over the past few days, really the past like 12 hours or so, Jules. You've been tweeting a lot about it, how it's unheard of, how the odds are kind of all over the place. I think the top 3 are off the board right now at DraftKings. What is the top 3 order going to be? What do you think? What's your gut telling you?
I don't know. And my gut's telling me a lot of things. As I think most people are. The reason this is weird is because it's the concrete reports of, an Adrian Wojnarowski who everybody trusts. Like when Woj says something, if you can get down a bet on it before it goes off the board, you bet it. But this time there is money coming in on Paolo Banchero, pushing back every time to be that number 1 pick. So either Woj has this, and somebody out there is getting bad information that keeps hammering Banchero, or Woj is either being lied to and the people out there smashing Banchero know the truth, or Woj is lying to us, which I don't think I don't remember him necessarily doing, but he is lying to us because he has some ulterior motive to kind of murk up what this top pick is going to be. So I'm not going to pretend like I know anything. Top 3 picks off the board at DK Sportsbook, but where picks have opened up, like, there are sportsbooks taking money on Jabari Smith at like -1,000 because of the Woj tweet, strictly because of the Woj tweet. And that's where the information comes from. I am talking to some people that say it's Jabari Smith. I'm talking to some connected people that say that it is Banchero. That's why this push is coming there. So this is kind of the first time we've had like a Woj versus the books situation that I can remember. And the first time that we're having all this pushback on somebody that there's no concrete report anywhere. Wherever this is coming from is strictly inside information without any report. And every mock draft has Jabari Smith 1. And the ones that have gotten, crazy the last couple of days put Chet Holmgren 1. Not even Banchero. So it's just the first time that we don't know where this is coming from, and the first time we've seen movement like this, and the first time we've had, Woj and the sports books disagree.
Yeah, a lot. It feels like up in the air, a lot of disagreement here, Nick. How are you approaching tonight's draft here, especially the top 3?
Yeah, well, hopefully we get some odds back up at a lot of these books that have understood pulled them. It's kind of going minute to minute. If you're refreshing sports books, obviously they don't want to get burned, and obviously there's a lot of information coming in. But earlier this morning, I think it was Caesars had Banchero at -200. Now if you kind of search around, you'll see some books that have Jabari Smith around like -105. I mean, there's an indication here that nobody has any idea what's going to happen. And, I think we're assuming that, Orlando, OKC, and Houston are going to make these first 3 picks. And I think that is the most likely outcome. But it's also possible that there's some information out there, whether Woj is accurate or getting duped. Maybe if you're Orlando, you want to put the message out like, hey, we might take Chet Holmgren. Hey, we might take Banchero. Maybe motivate a team like OKC to feel like it has to make some sort of Godfather offer to move up if they have a guy, presumably Chet Holmgren, that they want to get. Or if Houston really likes Banchero, it could be just one big smoke screen by Orlando, and then come 7:30 tonight, it goes Smith, Holmgren, Banchero, and we all look back and say, wow, I can't believe we spent an hour panicking about this in the morning.
All right, Jeff, your thoughts on just how everything's shaking out right now, hours leading up to the draft. We're about 12 hours away right now.
I'm with both of these guys. I really have no idea how it's going to play out. And the Woj tweet really threw a wrench into things because you never expect him to be duped, right? Like Nick was saying, I talked to a guy who has covered the Magic for quite some time. And what we know about Orlando is that they play things very close to the vest, as do a lot of organizations in the NBA. So that means this intel is likely coming from the agent side, not the team side. And the reality of the situation is we haven't heard a single major media outlet report that Paolo's going number 1. In fact, we've heard the exact opposite with Woj. So right now, I feel like we have to lean towards Jabari. Despite all of the noise, he's going to go number 1. Chet's going to go 2. Paolo's going to go 3. But like these guys are saying, there's a lot of time between now and the draft for things to change. So who knows what's going to happen.
Well, Jules, we also talked a lot like yesterday about a few guys draft position props. So we hit on +200 for Keegan Murray to go over his 5.5 line. So what's your favorite draft position prop right now, as we're 8 hours from the start of the draft? We're about 12 hours from the completion of it.
Yeah, that's a really good question because we're here and a lot is getting picked off. As you can see, I'm looking down at the current board because it's changing all the time. Honestly, out of what's left, in my opinion, the best bet on the board, I put it out yesterday at -135 on Twitter, and in my article, it's now -210. So you're going to have to chug some juice here. But Malachi Branham, the freshman from Ohio State, he's still at 14.5 on DK Sportsbook. You will be hard pressed to find a mock draft that has him going in that lottery. I think and the only spot that he really could go is maybe 14 to Cleveland, who could use a wing there. But is he the better prospect than maybe AJ Griffin falls there, or a quick rising Jalen Williams, or a solid pro in Ochai Agbaji that has the experience? I just think Branham falls out of that lottery. And if it came down to it and I didn't have any action there and I wanted to make a bet on DK Sportsbook, I would lay the -210 there. I think his range is kind of more 15 to 21 at this point.
Hey, Jeff, what's your favorite draft position prop right now in the DK Sportsbook?
So I feel like Shaedon Sharpe could sneak into the top 7 here, especially if the Trailblazers keep this pick. You can see right now, last time I checked on DraftKings Sportsbook, him going under 7.5 was around +150. So you're getting some value there. The Blazers have been linked to him for weeks now. You get a combo guard who can learn under Damian Lillard for a few years before hopefully getting the keys to the franchise. You've still got Anthony Simons in that backcourt. And even if they do trade that pick to Toronto, we've heard the rumors that the Raptors are trying to send OG to Portland, or Portland's really trying to get OG for that number 7 overall pick. Toronto feels like a match for Sharp as well. Looking at the two teams before that number 7 pick as well, you have Detroit at 5 and Indiana at 6. Those are two teams who will stress upside over anything at this stage in their rebuilds. And that's exactly what Sharp has. We know that the Pistons would love to see Jaden Ivey fall to them at 5. I just don't see that happening. So between a more proven guy like a Keegan Murray or a high upside guy in Sharp, you feel like both Detroit and Indy will lean towards taking the upside. So I think there's opportunity for him to go in the top 7.
All right, Nick, is there a guy you like here with his draft position prop on the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, one I'm looking at is Mark Williams, whose number is at 13.5, and you can get the under at plus 170. And I'm particularly looking at the holders of the 13th pick, the Charlotte Hornets, who also picked 15th. And it's kind of going to depend on what happens with Jalen Duren. You know, I think it's such an obvious spot for Charlotte to try to get a big man, you know, upgrade that center position that's been such a hole for them over the last few years. And, you know, believe it or not, Mason Plumlee did not patch that hole last season. I feel like they're going to take Mark Williams with one of those 2 picks, and maybe it's 13. You know, I think you know, all the comparisons to Robert Williams over the last few weeks have really helped Mark Williams. You know, the fact that Robert Williams played so well in the playoffs, you know, you see those kind of comparisons. It feels like his stock is kind of on the rise here. So certainly there's a chance that if Jalen Duren's on the board, they could take him at 13, but I think Mark Williams would be a really good fit. And getting that at almost 2-1, I think is pretty solid value.
All right, Nick, slate approved pick time. What's your favorite bet for the NBA draft tonight on the DK Sportsbook? One that's up, at least at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was one of them for sure. And one that I think we touched on yesterday in the mock with Julian was Ousmane Dieng to go in the top 10. It feels like he's rising. I love Julian's comparison as Dieng being kind of this year's version of Josh Giddey, where, you know, you start to hear positive things, but you don't know quite how high he's going to go. I don't think he's going to go 6 overall. I think that would be a stretch, but it does feel like we could see him come off the board, you know, maybe as high as like 7 or 8, you know, maybe 9 or 10. And that number has shrunk a little bit. I think yesterday morning when we discussed it, he was plus 125 or plus 135. And now at DK, he's at plus 110.
All right, Jules, hook me up.
Yeah, I mean, we missed the boat for slate approved picks. Like, the board is gone. You had to do it earlier in the week, but it's Malachi Branham for me over 14.5 is the best one. I like Jeff's pick of Shaden Sharp getting the plus 150 to go in the top 7. And the only other one left up that I think is bettable for now, I don't see a spot in the top 10 for Jalen Duren, especially if Dieng sneaks into the top 10, if somebody else sneaks into the top 10. So I think Duren, that the spots for him in the top 10 are 9 to the Spurs, like maybe, and he doesn't feel like a very Spursy pick. So I think he falls out of the top 10, maybe does go 13 to Charlotte or something like that.
Jeff, what's your favorite bet tonight?
Yeah, so the bet I'm most confident in, regardless of if the Kings stay at number 4, is Jaden Ivey going in that spot. Last time I checked, it was minus 200 on DraftKings Sportsbook. We know the top 3, but I think Ivey could easily end up being the best player in the draft. And I think a lot of teams see that upside in him too. Sacramento just traded away Tyrese Halliburton. They need another guard. So if they stay in that spot, I think Ivey is absolutely the pick. And then quickly a flyer, I also think AJ Griffin to be the Knicks' first pick at plus 400 makes a lot of sense. They're sitting at 11. The only guy I think New York might consider taking over Griffin is Johnny Davis. It feels like he probably won't be on the board at that point. I think if Washington sticks at 10, they'll probably take him. Griffin's been linked to the Knicks for, I think, a little bit over 2 months now. He's a sharpshooting wing, size, upside. It's exactly what New York is looking for. So both of those.
All right, guys, we've run out of time. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to talk to Nick about MVP odds for next season. We all know he's going to be betting Desmond Bane at plus 80,000. Isn't that right, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, the lowest we could go. I think you can get Dylan Brooks at 2,000 to 1. Clint Capella at 3,000 to 1. I mean, we're talking insane value.
All right, yeah, and shout out to your boy RJ Barrett as well. Thanks, guys, for all the help. We're going to debate, is Rob Gronkowski a Hall of Famer, with Jeff and Pierce right after this. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Sweat here. Final block of the show. We're bringing in a couple of our NFL analysts. We got DraftKings contributors Jeff Warwick and Pierce Dietrich here. So we weren't able to really talk about it yesterday, guys. But Rob Gronkowski retiring again after 11 seasons, 4 Super Bowls, 5-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro tight end. Known for his big personality on and off the field here. We know he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. But Jeff, is he the best tight end of all time, in your opinion?
Yeah, he is. Absolutely. And it's not recency bias talking. You know, I know some people throw out Tony Gonzalez's name. Kellen Winslow Sr. in the 70s is actually the player I would say is most comparable to Gronk, but it's Gronk. If you look from 2019 to the start of Gronk's career to what he did on an efficiency basis, it's not even close. Some of the numbers that you're throwing out on like a per season average, Gronk, like 11 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, 72 catches for like 9-year stretch. That's what he averaged. He averaged a touchdown in that stretch on every 6.6 throws.
Yeah.
It's insane what he did. And then you throw in the fact he was a really good run blocker too, and he actually played. He was a complete tight end. He wasn't just a wide receiver out there acting as a receiver. Yeah, Gronk's the best tight end ever.
And Pierce, he doesn't top the career list in any statistical category here. So can you still make a case for him being the best tight end ever?
Yes, you can. It's really not that hard of a case. You just look at the championships. Yep. That's really all that matters. He won the championships. His stats are fine. Are they the best, most, star-studded stats? Probably not. Shannon Sharp may be the better tight end. Is Tony Gonzalez maybe the better tight end? Antonio Gates. Were they more dynamic? Maybe, but he won the championships. He did everything he was asked to do. He did everything he needed to do. If you really wanted to make an argument, the case could be made that, well, tight end's such a different position than it once was. So it's really hard to compare to just even to the 90s, to the 80s. The same thing with running backs. Today, if a running back gets 1,000 yards, that's a big deal, but that was nothing in the 90s. Quarterback throwing for 3,500 yards now is nothing, but in the 90s, that was a big deal. So if you're comparing eras, it's tricky, but you don't have any problems comparing championships. So that's the winner for me.
All right. Yeah, I think you guys nailed it, because Gates, Gonzalez, Sharp kind of revolutionized like tight end play. Like they made them elite, right? Elite offensive weapons here, Pierce. But then Gronk took the position to like a whole nother level and set the stage for players like Kelsey and Kittle behind him, which, those two guys have been the top two like draft picks when we're talking fantasy drafts here for tight ends, because Gronk, those days are gone now. You will no longer be taking him until he comes back after training camp. But who are you looking at to be the best tight end in fantasy next season, Pierce?
Oh, it's Mark Andrews. It's not even close. Over 100 receptions, 1,300 yards receiving last year. Now, maybe you argue that, well, Andrews can't get better. Well, I think Andrews is going to get even bigger and better this season. Yeah, if the running backs come back, maybe that's going to hurt his potential, but I don't think so. The team still ran the ball a lot last season. And if the line is healthy this year, his quarterback is healthy, if his running backs are healthy, that's just going to take more of the attention away. Teams are going to have to honor the run. And Andrews, I think, is just going to have an even bigger season. Darren Waller could also benefit from Devontae Adams being there, sort of the way that Travis Kelce had great seasons, because teams had to focus on Tyreek Hill. Speaking of Kelsey, I don't know if he'll be as dynamic with Tyreek Hill gone, but he's still too big for cornerbacks to cover, and he's still too fast for safeties and linebackers. Those are the guys that I would target. Kittle, a little too mercurial. I like Kyle Pitts next season. He could, he's on the precipice of being a star in this league, but who's his quarterback? So Andrews is the guy.
I mean, Jeff, is Andrews the guy here? He paced all tight ends in fantasy points in 2021. Kelsey did the prior 5 seasons.
Mark Andrews is really interesting. I would side with Pierce as well. That I think that he's got a very good shot of being the top tight end in football. You look at what Andrews did last year. He increased his number of routes run by over 200. The Ravens passed the ball a little bit more than people thought last year, and that really helped Mark Andrews. But some people are calling for a little bit of aggression here because they think the Ravens are suddenly going to run the ball more and they're just not going to pass. The Ravens were still one of the lowest passing teams in the league last year. Like, I still think that Mark Andrews is going to get plenty of routes runs, get plenty of targets, and now there's no Marquise Brown. So, no, I think Mark Andrews is really good. He's just hitting his stride. He's basically operating as the wide receiver 1 in that offense. I think I would prefer him over Kelsey, especially at the current ADPs. I think 2 tight ends that could pop up this year and perhaps challenge. I think George Kittle could definitely bounce back. Still very dynamic. He's got to stay on the field. And I think TJ Hawkinson is just a player. I still think that there's a little bit more on tap here. I know he's connected to Jared Goff, but I think there's a little bit more you can get out of TJ Hawkinson. I look at him as a potential value down in the draft at tight end as well.
All right, a fun one to wrap up this segment, to wrap up this show. Patriots announcing that the red throwback uniforms and the Patriot helmets will be back in 2022 as an alternate with some rule changes to helmets and jerseys now. What other team needs to bring back a throwback next season, Jeff? You said if we didn't get to this question, you would riot. So here we are.
I mean, we need to make a case. Like, well, why don't we see the Houston Oilers old jerseys on the field every week, or at least like 8 times a year? It's the best jerseys in the NFL. And then also I'll throw out a little shout out to Kelly Green, the old Philadelphia Eagles with the great helmet as well. Those are 2 uniforms. Just get them back. There's nothing better than those teams have ever thrown out. So
yeah. So wouldn't it be the Titans who would wear the Oilers uniforms?
Yes,
then,
it
right?
would be technically.
Okay. All right, Pierce, what do you got, dude? Which ones do you want to see coming back?
I don't care what teams wear them. I just want to see.
Yeah, same here. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of the old man, so I don't really care about throwbacks. But one thing that I would like to see, being an old man, is more of a theme-driven throwback. And I would love to see teams wear their Tecmo Super Bowl uniforms. You go back to whatever it was, 1991-92 season, so everyone wears the uniform from Tecmo Super Bowl. I'd like to see that.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. Give me the old Jags uniforms that they actually were never able to wear because the Jaguar car brand sued them and said, yeah, no, that looks just like our Jaguar, not allowing it. All right. Well, the old man segment is over. Everybody can get off our lawn now. We are back tomorrow morning for 11 o'clock Eastern time edition of The Sweat. We'll see everybody then. Thanks for hanging out.